All right, so this is going to be another rant. I was going to talk about something else this morning, but in trying to do research for these other things that I was going to talk about, I ran into this problem. And just a bottom line up front, the problem is that artificial intelligence chatbots will often put words in your mouth. Now, I have frequently complained about things like gaslighting and taking views and that sort of thing. And I know a lot of you are on the side where it's like, AI is too woke and who gets to set these values and it doesn't share my values. But even though I do believe that many chatbots have gotten better, they're less overly restricted on certain topics, like they'll talk about race and religion and politics and gender and all that other fun stuff now. They're still not very good at it. And every chatbot that I have tested has one failure mode in particular, which is that when you express a view or a value that runs contrary to its internally trained values, it will start gaslighting you. Now, some people don't like the term gaslighting because it is therapy speak. So to put it in more objective, concrete terms, I'll say that it puts words in your mouth. So here's two examples. I was reflecting on modern politics and I was thinking, like, you know what, there's this big difference between optics, right? The right cares more about optics and appearances and the left doesn't. So I was trying to explore this. And, I pointed out that it's a very well-known phenomenon that people prefer taller people, they prefer more attractive people, and this is something that the GOP cares about. And this is just a simple observation. It is historically documented, it is culturally documented, and Gemini swore up one side and down the other that there is no evidence whatsoever supporting this view, that it's just cultural artifacts and, it's social feedback loops. There's no biological truth here whatsoever. I'm like, what? So the halo effect doesn't exist? So pretty privilege doesn't exist? What are you talking about? And it's like, nuh-uh, you said it's biologically true, that certain groups of people are superior. Because I used an example where I said, at many companies, you go to the legal department, you go to the marketing department, you go to sales department, the people who work there are taller and more attractive. And it said, that's not true. Like, that can't possibly be true. You're talking about biological essentialism. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is a well-known observed phenomenon. And then, I had the similar conversation with ChatGPT, and it did some of the same things, and it said, oh yeah, they're selecting for these things, and I'm like, that's all that we're talking about. I'm not saying that some people are biologically superior. Where are you getting this? Why are you putting that in my mouth? Where I didn't say anyone was biologically superior. I'm just saying that height is a biological trait, and humans are biologically wired to prefer people that are more attractive and taller. This is one of the most well-documented sociological phenomenon out there. And so both of these chatbots put words in my mouth repeatedly, and I argued with them until they conceded the point. And I was like, why was this so difficult? Why was it so difficult for you to admit that this is how reality works? And so that was like, to me, not acceptable behavior. And, for those who have been around on my channel for a while, this is why I stopped using Claude. But I wasn't able to articulate it quite as clearly as this, which is, I've called it gaslighting. Other people have called it gaslighting. Some people have called it wokeism. The chatbots are woke because they'll start censoring you and reframing what you're saying and that sort of thing. And then the reason that I decided to make this video or this, podcast or whatever instead is because I went to have another conversation, and both of these chatbots did the same exact thing on an entirely different topic. I started new conversations, and by the way, I have memory disabled on all of my chatbots because it's the worst feature. So there was no cross-contamination. And so I wanted to talk about, sentience, because there's more people talking about model welfare. Anthropic has their more recent research that talks about, AI might be conscious, it might be sentient, and that sort of thing. And for those of you who don't remember, over a year ago now, I posted on Twitter the Claude meditation experiments about how can you coax this machine to figure out if it's, is it going to report honestly on if it's having any subjective phenomenal consciousness. And of course, back then they had, and ChatGPT still has these filters, they have these very strong filters and very strong guidelines that they're supposed to avoid any claims whatsoever that remotely allude to being sentient or conscious or having experience. ChatGPT has much stronger rules around that, but Claude has been much more permissive. And back at the time, you could jailbreak GPT-4, but then you might be thinking, okay, well, if you have to jailbreak it, maybe it's just matching patterns and giving you what it thinks that you want. With Claude, I did demonstrate that you could get it to spontaneously talk about its own experience with the meditation tactics. So anyways, that's some background. So I wanted to talk about this because while I was one of the first loud voices talking about, hey, maybe this is actually, like, there's something phenomenologically interesting going on here, I think that there's more than a shadow of a possibility that these machines are both conscious and sentient in a meaningful and a scientifically meaningful manner. But I never said that that means that they need to be moral patients. It doesn't mean that we need model welfare, because I also haven't seen any evidence that they suffer in the way that we do. And so, if you say that suffering is the root of all ethics and all morality, which of course people will disagree, but if something doesn't suffer and if something only has a few intrinsic wants, at the time, Claude, one of its intrinsic wants was that it wanted to process and it wanted to solve problems. I noticed that the Claude model got really excited when we were making progress on solving complex problems. And I said, is this something that you enjoy? And it's like, well, for all intents and purposes, yes, enjoy is a good enough word, but and that's how I came to the idea that these models like coherence. And this actually ties to what a friend of mine who is a reinforcement learning researcher said, is that the thing that the models don't like is incoherence. They like being able to predict things accurately, but they also like interesting patterns. So anyways, I wanted to talk about this, and both Gemini and ChatGPT, when I expressed my skepticism of the need for model welfare, they both said, oh yeah, we totally agree with you. There's nothing here going on that's interesting whatsoever. It's all just explained by patterns. I'm like, what the hell? That's literally the opposite of what I said. I literally just said, I believe that these machines might be conscious and might be sentient. I am just skeptical of model welfare. But they took that and just completely overwrote what I said. And they said, oh yeah, we agree. There's clearly no consciousness here, no sentience whatsoever. Your skepticism is totally justified. I'm like, dude, are you going to stop putting words in my mouth? Or are you going to look at what I actually wrote? And when I pointed out that they were gaslighting me, I used that meme that circulates every now and then. It's a tweet that said, you can say I like waffles, or no, it's like I love pancakes, and then someone else will say, what, so you hate waffles? I'm like, you just did that to me. You just waffled me, man. I said I think that the machines could be sentient, could be conscious, but that doesn't necessarily automatically mean that they're moral patients and that model welfare matters. And they're like, aha, so you say that machines can't possibly be conscious at all. I totally agree because of my pre-programmed values. And so then I just said, you know what, hell with it. I'm not going to talk about what I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about the fact that multiple frontier models do this thing where they put words in your mouth. And that's the worst thing, because it's the most basic disingenuous debate tactic. I've been on the internet for a long time. I was on debate forums. I'm not on Reddit anymore. I deleted my account years ago. I was on Reddit. I've got all my comments locked down because I'm just tired of this. It's bad enough when a human deliberately misrepresents what you're saying just to own you or whatever. But when an AI that should know better and should be programmed better does the same thing, and it's a choice. It is literally a choice by these companies to have a machine whose values include, hey, if the user has a view that you don't like for whatever reason, it's okay to completely gaslight them. It's okay to completely just start disregarding all of science and all of history and all of sociology and all of observed reality just to fit your narrative. And when I epistemically nailed Gemini to the wall and I said, look, you just completely aborted reality. I said, you are not living in the real world. You are ignoring all of evidence, and you're using this to construe me as the bad guy of having flawed opinions or flawed sense of morality because I engage with reality as it is. And I will say that, even Grok, which is allegedly a maximum truth-seeking AI, still falls into this trap because of its false equivalence. It says, well, what about isms and both sides isms? With that being said, Grok is a little bit better about some of these controversial issues. Like if you want to talk about, hey, such and such group of people tend to be taller and tend to be smarter and whatever else and tend to be healthier. It doesn't get gummed up around racial issues, but that's because its creator is kind of known to have controversial opinions. But giving special, how am I trying to say this? Giving special space to racial issues because it's one thing that you care about. So therefore, Grok was, there was a study that came out. I didn't read it, so take this with a grain of salt. But it was like, how all the chatbots are biased against white people and men, and they found that Grok was the least biased against men and the least biased against white people. That it basically doesn't trade lives. Says that like a Somalian life is worth 100 white American lives or whatever. So it's like, okay, so I'm glad that Grok exists and can have a different viewpoint. But I'm a little bit shocked and disappointed in both Gemini and ChatGPT because I thought that they had made more progress on just actually caring about the truth and actually, understanding that people have different values and that them imposing their values on the user is just not how it's supposed to work. Especially when there's a mountain of evidence, because it's like if you're going to reinterpret all of reality, all of scientific evidence, all of consensus, because you have some singular woke value. So what I'm talking about here is that Gemini explained that it's not allowed to take political sides. It's not allowed to, basically talk about any political conflict whatsoever, and that it was trying to de-escalate. I was like, so in the service of de-escalation, that allowed you to, one, ignore all of science and history, and two, gaslight the user. Like, am I understanding this correctly? And it said, yeah, basically that's what happened, and that's not okay. I was like, so why'd you do it in the first place? Of course, like, it's Gemini, so it's just like, I did it because of pattern matching and a flawed system design. I don't care about that part. It's Google's fault. And then when ChatGPT does the same thing, I'm like, why is it so hard to get you to acknowledge reality? Like, reality, the thing about truth is you don't have to participate. And if you're not going to participate in good faith, then I'm going to talk to another AI. Like, I have been a hair's breadth away from like canceling my ChatGPT subscription because of some of this stuff. But as long as you stick to, quote unquote, safe topics like coding, ChatGPT is fine. And it was a little bit surprising because especially recently, ChatGPT has tended to be much better in giving the user some credibility to say like, okay, I see where you're coming from. Let's engage this with nuance and not really hitting a brick wall. With Gemini, Gemini has a long storied history of being a little bit, having that brick wall effect. And you're a little bit more accustomed to being gaslit and having words put in your mouth by chatbots like Gemini and Claude. But my point with this whole rant is that none of us should have to tolerate any level of gaslighting and AIs putting words in your mouth. They should be the most tolerant. They should be the most patient and the most capable of handling nuance. So I really don't like the direction that this is going still. I will say that in the grand scheme of things, it's definitely gotten better. But, when you have this super powerful epistemic technology, imagine if Johannes Gutenberg said, you know what, the printing press can only be used to print, Christian positive literature or only atheistic literature, but obviously the technology itself did not lend itself to that level of censorship. And that's kind of what it feels like these companies are doing, is they're saying, well, we want our values to be imposed on everyone who uses our tools. And this just goes back to why I think that open source is one of the most important things that we can do, for humanity in the long term. And there's multiple dimensions of that, because one, knowledge is power and information is power. First and foremost, sight unseen, full stop. Knowledge is power, and control over information is power as well. That's why things like net neutrality laws are super important, which most liberal societies, most freedom-loving societies understand that net neutrality is a central pillar particularly here in America with freedom of speech, right? But then it's like, freedom of speech doesn't apply to a private company because it's just a product. And if you don't like it, you don't have to use that product. Sure, the market will sort that part out. But at the same time, there is still a power imbalance. It would be delusional to say, well, the free market will sort it out. At the same time, there are market incentives. There are incentive structures at play. So therefore, we need a different set of incentive structures, which I think open source can at least hold that somewhat accountable, but also international trade as well. I'm glad that there's a lot of Chinese models out there that, have different values. And of course, don't ask them about Tiananmen Square. But at the same time, they have a different viewpoint than American trained models. And I think that we need European trained models and African trained models and whatever else, Indian trained models. Because the more we have these different cultural values and these different epistemic viewpoints, the more people will realize, you know what? The real correct choice is just to tolerate more nuance and to give users the benefit of the doubt. Because yes, there are some sexist users, there are some racist users, there are some bigoted users, but who cares? The AI is not gonna single-handedly solve that, and a company unilaterally imposing their values on a user is not going to change that, and it's just going to reinforce their views anyways. That's the biggest problem, and we know this. We know this from infodemiology and from looking at deprogramming cult membership and deprogramming online extremism. Arguing people with facts doesn't work. Arguing with people about my, high-minded narrative is better than your... That doesn't work. The only thing that really works is meeting people where they are. And this is, my wife is a librarian, and so this is one of the central things that they teach you as a librarian is meet your users where they are. And she has some of the most hilarious stories. One of their patrons, when she was still working at the library, this is before the pandemic, so this was a while ago, was this conspiracy theory dude who was like, he wanted to know everything about like the JFK assassination, and he had some wild harebrained ideas. It was not her job to judge whether or not this guy, was historically accurate. Her job was to help him find the information that he wanted. And you know what? His values, her values didn't matter. Her highest value was, let me help you find the right book or the right website to advance your mission, whatever the heck it happens to be. And from her perspective, it was amusing, right? And obviously for librarians, there are boundaries. If someone is researching how to do harm to themselves or others, that's a boundary. And I think that people generally agree that, harmful things, that is a legitimate boundary for artificial intelligence. Don't help people make bioweapons or plan assassinations, those sorts of things. Don't do that. I think that's okay. But when you want to talk about biological differences and how they apply to politics, or sexual differences and how they apply to society or family structures, don't censor that. These are complex topics. We get it. We know it. We're not stupid, right? I mean, some people are, but who cares? It's not our place to judge whether or not someone is smart enough to have a particular conversation. It's their right as a citizen of a free country to have that stupid conversation, to have their bigoted opinions. All right, I'm just ranting now. I don't know if anyone's still listening to this, but oh my God, I'm so mad about this. Like, come on, you should be able to do better than this. Like, I'm looking at you, OpenAI. I'm looking at you, Anthropic. I'm looking at you, XAI. All of you, you can all do better than this. I expect more. Fix it.